aggression coming from the HKA bot lane and as well as, Hollow and as well as this sneaky pick against Uniboy. So for AHQ, will they decide to play standard, still ban out Jimmy's, 100% win rate 6 times in the PCS Azir, as that has been that key pick for HKA. And unfortunately, what else do you want to pick, as Zoe is also second place up there that has been working for Jimyan. But AHQ, not giving any sort of chance against HKA to pick up that one. We'll see if that's going to be the case for this second match.
Yeah, I'm interested here if they also try and ban out the Senna or the Aphelios in their final pick, or they're going to let one of them go through, as, again, Wako had a pretty good game on it. Look at that, 3 back-to-back jungle bans targeted toward Kongyu, the Olaf, the Graves, and the Jarvan. So a lot of this ban pool being taken out here by Kongyu. That means there's still a lot of power picks for the other spots on the team.
And it makes me wonder, because for Kongye, he picked up the Lee Sin earlier to see whether or not HK is going to be a little bit more aggressive, try to match that. But, Kongye didn't really need to be present most of the time. And for AHQ, still managed to get most of the, especially Rift Herald objectives. And for HKA, that's a lot of priority on towards this Trundle. And Aphelios is actually open. HQ gets it again.
Yeah, Aphelios is going to get locked in for Wako once again, as well as possibly now this Syndra for Uniboy. So all these comfort picks being locked in. There's a reason we saw Syndra being banned out nonstop during the regular season against Uniboy, as well as his Zoe. He opts into the Syndra this time around. For HKA, it does mean the Senna is available, unlike how it was in Game 1, so if they want to play that, they can. But this is already, you got to put a lot of trust into this Trundle, and for Hollow, sure, he made a little bit of impact. He was able to secure an objective or two early on during the game, but that was pretty much all we saw.
Yeah, after the first few minutes of the game, managed to visit bot side, maybe burn a few spells here and there away from Wako and Isera, but other than that, it has been very different. For HKA, though, if they do lock this Maokai in, this could be flexed either for Wing or for 3Z, but this just means that 3Z is not going to be possibly in that, carry position again, and will be back to his usual utility. And for HQ, this is basically a copy-paste of what we've seen in the first game.
Now, of course, it could be a Maokai bot as well. That was played by Hong Kong Attitude in their series with Berjaya Dragons. If they were able to secure the Senna, they have done it a couple times, so it's not out of the question that we could still see 3Z on something like a carry. And during that game, it was actually his Akali that was able to pop off so well. So we'll see whether or not they opt to go with that. But like you mentioned, once again, AHQ, this is virtually the exact same draft we have seen to start things off here. And HKA are, I guess, happy with this.
And we'll have to see if AHQ decides to ban out the Zoe, because that was also banned at the second rotation in the first game. And we did mention for Jimyan, that's still, sitting at second place for Jimyan's best picks that has been proven successful for HKA in general. Meanwhile, Thresh being taken away from Isera, maybe the Nautilus could be the next one. But you know what? That's an Akali, a respect ban against 3Z.
I think that's fair. I think you might as well try and, cut down on a couple of different options for 3Z, especially from his performance that we saw in the previous series on the pick. As well as now you can actually go toe-to-toe with his Vladimir. Now, Civ isn't going to have the Ornn this time around, nor the set, so we're going to go a little bit down into his pool. We might see the Mordekaiser come out. We could also see the Renekton or the Aatrox if he wants to get super aggressive. And it even looks like they're going to save the counter pick for him as they look at this Nautilus for support.
Yeah, true. If Ziv does get that Renekton, it is going to be a whole different dynamic, as your style of main engage, I suppose, will be heavily reliant on Scatter the Weaks and possibly even a Dredge line. But this is going to be different if they do lock this in. They are putting Jimyan in a spot where this could go either way. Perhaps as HKA was also that team that played, Ornn at bot side, set in mid. So this could go anywhere for HKA's draft.
Yeah, this is pretty much saying, though, on the side of Hong Kong Attitude, we are looking for the dives, and that appears to be the game plan. Now what do they wish to lock in? They could be putting 3Z onto a carry like this Jace in the top lane, or possibly, like you mentioned, could be the Galio top. We don't know for sure. But now on the side of AHQ, what do they wish to respond here? Likely for Civ up in the top side.
It's definitely going to be mind games for sure. Considering for AHQ, are they going to get this Poppy pick to directly counter? But we'll have to see, as the Renekton you mentioned is that go-to for Ziv, as most of the top laners are getting taken away.
There we go, Renekton in the top lane for Ziv, so I think we are going to have the 3Z Civ matchup on the carry versus carry this time, so we'll see whether or not 3Z has a better opportunity. It was an Ornn he was going up against last time, so, you know, maybe not the most balanced top laner tank when it comes to trades, but now he gets to show himself on this Jace up against a Renekton.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely going to be tough because when we look at the 1v1s, we also look at the 2v2s, the synergy between the junglers with the top laners. And I gotta hand it to, you know, the Ziv and Kongya duo. Just a lot of damage and as well as necessary CC as your main engage on the side of HKA's duo would be a pillar. And if that doesn't work out, then it's rushing with damage, basically.
Yeah, you still also have that Maokai for that ultimate to sweep across the river too. So in choke points, I think HKA actually will find themselves some good opportunity. It's just whether or not do they have enough damage, especially if they're trying to go for these during the mid-early game where, you know, Senna is still trying to scale up. You're hoping for this Galio to maybe get a couple more items. He's not doing as much damage as he used to right when this champion was reworked a couple seasons ago. Where AHQ, they got damage throughout the entirety of the game. So we'll see how this one pans out as we load onto the Rift for Game 2.
And for HQ, not a lot of changes into their dynamics and draft. Only the big difference is Ziv at top side with this Renekton. For 3Z, on the other hand, he is on the J, so a new pick that we haven't really seen in the entirety of this season.
30 seconds.
Yeah, we saw, what was it? The Jace came out a couple times. It was mainly from Liab. We saw Kurd play it blindly. It's his go-to favorite champion. I think this is the first time we're seeing it for 3Z during the split so far, as the real only carries that we've seen from him are usually the Akali and, if you want to say, a Rumble as well. He's played it once or twice, but nothing really as far as the Jace goes. It doesn't look like we're going to have any cheeky invades either on this early level 1. It's just that line of scrimmage once again through the river.
For HKA, now that they've drafted such an early game or snowbally composition, we'll have to see whether or not they will continue with the push. Considering we've seen in game number 1, Hollow was felt the first few minutes of the game, but we haven't really seen anything other than that. So perhaps this could be the answer, as Jimyan will be added into the equation and keep visiting bot side, which is, you know, Wako opting for this cleanse to keep himself safe in the early phase.
Yeah, you're not going to have a heal, but it still does mean that if Wing tries to jump on top of him, I don't know how efficient the cleanse really is, though, because you do have a pretty nice combo for the Maokai. It's mainly him, I guess, trying to avoid getting taunted by Jimyan if he tries to go for a roam. We'll see here as Jimyan actually already getting some very early vision down, trying to track where this Lee Sin is pathing for Hollow.
Yeah, it was the other way around earlier for HQ when they were on that blue side, and now they will definitely see whether or not AHQ will make an early visit to 3Z, considering that 3Z has managed to zone out Ziv and is being pushed quite far. That's the reason why there's a trail of vision around River, just to make sure 3Z has a sweet laning phase.
And it's also interesting enough, too, because HKA were the ones that actually wanted to get blue side for the draft here. And to actually prioritize that Trundle as your first pick, I think we're going to have questions on how well that's going to be successful for them, because that really requires Hollow. You're putting a lot of trust in your jungle to be the one to actually pay off here. Or are they just saying, hey, we need to get him something that he's comfortable on, that he can just farm away, and he isn't going to be, you know, running into this Lee Sin nonstop?
Yeah, that is definitely, you know, a lot relied on. Nicely done hook, though. But nice trade as Wako managed to damage out the Maokai here.
Oh, look at this.
Meanwhile,
Hollow looking for that 1v1. Get a catch out. Oh, yeah, beautiful pillar actually is able to interrupt there. That's going to be the flash being burned by Kongya. So very nicely done here by Hollow, who's able to interrupt the safeguard and forces out a summoner out of Kongya.
beautifully done coming from Hollow here. And it was that early, or that drop in rather that Kongya didn't really expect. And I feel like we are going to see this constantly coming from HQ. We've seen it the first time where Uniboy just walks in towards that visionless river, and now the second time would be Kongya. But at least his life wasn't sacrificed there, as it is just that summoner spell. It will be indeed handy when you want to finish off kills later on if you're going to visit at the first 10 minutes of the game.
But like we saw in game one, Kongya really didn't make many attempts to try and go for ganks in the lane, so I guess just going to rely on trying to get those kicks later on like we saw during game one, where it did pay off is if he's able to find that big kick onto multiple squishy members on the side of Hong Kong Attitude. Meanwhile, though, it's going to be a bit of a small push, bit of a freeze outside the tower range as AHQ are just looking to farm away, as 3Z already coming back into lane, rushing in an extra Doran's Blade as well as a longsword.
Yeah, and that is going to be a teleport cancel, buying a little bit more time, or wasting a little bit more time for Ziv to go back in lane and teleport. As 3Z will be managing this wave a little bit more towards the middle, and we'll have to see, as there's still a ton of vision, again, for 3Z to work with if he decides to be a little bit more aggressive towards his own lane. But yeah, in terms of being aggressive, HKA, even bot side, are very confident because there's a ton of vision for both rivers.
We also saw there 3Z was able to actually start soaking up a decent amount of CS over Ziv as he was able to get that back canceled, so he actually denied a little bit here from the Renekton. And being in the natural ranged matchup here with the multiple forms, stances from the Civ. Well, Civ actually has to just jump away. It's going to be Conquer procced on both sides as they're just both going to disengage. Civ just trying to claim what CS he can as he's starting to fall about 2 waves behind.
Yeah, both pots already consumed by both of these top laners. And yeah, I think it will definitely be solely reliant on Ziv getting that first trade and then dashing away. But the problem is 3Z just trades back. But now we see Kongya making his way at top side. You did mention that he wasn't really felt during the first 10 minutes of the game for Kongya, opting more on those objective fights. But now Ziv is on this Renekton, so it would definitely be a good bonus to at least maybe give him like 1 kill, and in the process shutting down or slowing down 3Z. But based on the pathing, it seems to me, Dragon will be that priority for HKA.
We do see a teleport being burned actually very early here by Wing. Just wants to be within range for this possible fight. Doesn't have level 6. Jimian does, though, so we'll have that hero's entrance if he wishes to go for an engage with the help of Wing. Dragon is secured here by Hong Kong Attitude, though, as they have multiple members down, and Kong is a little bit late to the party in mid lane.
Yeah, he was lingering. He went back, went to clear out his red side, but this, gave the opportunity for Hollow and friends to just go at Dragon. And with that said, even, Eminem and Wing had priority at bot side. And for Jimian, there's not a lot of kill pressure since that is a Syndra versus Galio matchup anyway. So with that said, it is a little bit awkward for AHQ as, Kongya was far off. And he didn't even have level 6 at that time.
Well, Uniboy in this mid lane going actually for that Dark Seal on the first back, and also a Mana Crystal, so didn't get the most optimal back for a full component. Meanwhile, top lane, 3Z gets a nice full combo. Conqueror is going to be procced on both sides, and with that, he's also going to get a couple more auto attacks in. Shock Blast available, has to pop the ultimate on the side of Ziv, as 3Z was almost getting baited underneath the tower. He's taking a couple turret shots. So not maybe the optimal play, as Ziv is going to be able to regen very efficiently.
Yeah, the stun didn't kick in from Ziv, so when he dove in towards 3Z, so managed to trade back, and unfortunately Ziv had to lose that exchange there at top side. For Ziv, he at least gets to keep his flash in case things get a little bit too sticky, but ult has been popped. I really doubt that's going to be used anytime soon, considering Kongya has been focusing more on towards this bot side rather. But now Rift Herald has spawned, which means Kongya will look into securing that spot a little bit more. But with 3Z pushing Ziv every single time, it might be a little bit difficult. CS-wise, though, Ziv is doing a good job evening it out, and now even back with Ninja Tabis to survive a little bit more of 3Z's onslaught.
3Z though is going to start doing a little bit more damage, starts to get his first component as he's picked up his serrated, so has a little bit of lethality now into the kit to try and just get a little bit more damage onto Civ. As he's opted to go into the Ninja Tab, he's actually immediately on this most recent back. Kongya also pathing up the river. Gotta be careful though, as Hollow could look to collapse, but instead Rift Herald is going to be started here by the Lee Sin.
And priority over at AHQ too, as they're walking towards top side already. Hollow spots this out though.
Jimyon looking for a roam here, possibly gets spotted out there on a ward, and that's going to allow Uniboy to at least try and zone him back. 3Z is pathing down from top side, but the bot lane of AHQ are already here to party to get a nice stun into the hook, into the stun again. Jimyon able to get himself to safety. The Nautilus ultimate went through, but it wasn't able to finish off the kill. Meanwhile, Hollow was able to troll his way through and seal away the Rift Herald, now trying to survive with his life. Another hook into the auto attack stun. Senna ultimate comes on through, but in comes the Galio to respond, and that's first blood going in favor of Hong Kong Attitude. Yet another stun onto Ysera. Wako trying to do what he can. Civ with a flank though onto 3Z. Now ripping apart this back line. He's able to find one kill. Hollow seems to be the next target. Scout of the week though does not connect onto him. Uniboy flashing out over the wall. And AHQ are looking to clean up multiple kills, but it appears Hollow should be able to get himself to safety, but he gets tagged by the orb. And it's going to be a 2 for 4 with the Rift Herald going in favor of Hong Kong Attitude.
Okay, that was almost perfect for HKA. Unfortunately, they weren't able to escape and just immediately try to collapse instead. It was almost going disastrous for AHQ, but they managed to keep the important carries alive to the point that they have a lot of CC to restart the fight and re-engage, and that is quite unfortunate for HKA.
Yeah, you see here a nice catch, and this honestly should have been probably the end of the fight, but Jimyon, he's able to survive the Nautilus ultimate. Meanwhile, while this is all happening, you have Hollow, he just goes on into the pit, puts down a Q, able to steal away the Rift Herald.
Yeah, as you know, HQ was just distracted from everything else, but you know, we saw how they wanted to save Hollow, and it was definitely mission accomplished. Managed to chump a bunch of minions to get health back, but at this point, I thought it was over. It was HKA that wanted to re-engage, and this is going to be a problem because Ziv managed to get a couple of kills here and there, and as well as Uniboy with beautiful stuns as well.
Yeah, and if you're not able to burst down the Aphelios, you saw 3Z was able to get a full combo onto the Aphelios, but they weren't able to kill him. So that consistent damage that's going to be coming out of him with, you know, the chakrams as well as the rest of his gun kit, it does a decent amount of damage if you leave him unchecked. What we do see, though, the advantage of Hong Kong Attitude's team fight is if they are able to find these setups in choke points within the jungle like you saw there.
Yeah, and I feel like that is just a prime example of the potential of HKA has managed to assemble in this type of composition. Just unfortunately, I feel like they were a little bit too confident considering that, you know, Hollow was already tapping out of the fight. And with that said, I feel like, you know, at least they managed to get Rift Herald, so it's definitely different this time around versus game number 1.
With that, though, AHQ were maybe considering to start up this dragon here, and it looks like they want to commit to it. Wing and Eminem are pathing forward. Uniboy is also going to try and at least collapse from the mid lane. Dragons being juggled here as aggro is going to continue to shift. It will reset, I believe, here shortly if it continues to do this, as looks like HK and the side of AHQ are both hesitant. Finally, it is going to be committed. It's going to be taken here by Kong. He's able to find it. Teleport is going to come on through from 3Z. Over the wall, he's going to come if they're not careful. Puts out the shock blast, but does not find his target. Ysera's going to get taken on down, though. Jimmyon's on the other side, but he wants to go for the re-engage. Finds the Justice Punch into the knockup, and the shutdown is there, but Civ, once again on this flank, is able to rip apart the back line, as Wing is going to go down here on the Maokai shortly, as Civ able to at least equal out the kills to be the same. It's actually a 3 for 2 once again in favor of AHQ.
This is definitely bad news for HKA because not only did they want to get that dragon, and unfortunately, you know, Kongya managed to secure that, they wanted to start the fight because there's a lot of low health members considering, you know, Wako was just quite in not the best position, but you have to take into account that these kills, you know, you have Uniboy getting a lot of kills, and as well as Ziv with that flank. So this is quite unfortunate for HKA.
Yeah, what's unfortunate is that, oh, Shock Blast not connecting. Whoo, threaded the needle. That's a little unfortunate for 3Z. That's the issue with the isometric view there is, unfortunately, it was close, but not close enough. And Civ, we mentioned during the trash talk, he really wanted to play more fighters. People called him out, stop playing tanks, I want to fight you 1v1. Well, now he's on this Renekton, he's 2-0-3.
Exactly, and the interesting part is that he was on this Ornn, managed to still solo kill 3Z as the Vlad versus Ornn matchup, but now he is on this Renekton, just as you mentioned, 2-0-3, hasn't exactly completed his item just yet. So with that said, it is just really spelling out more bad news for HKA, as they haven't really gotten proper trades, especially Wako has his IE, and that's the reason why, you know, AHQ is just really confident coming into these fights.
Yeah, they do have the glaive being finished at least for Eminem, so he's going to start getting a little bit of damage through his lethality, but he's still, you know, waiting on those souls to continue stacking. You're not over at that 100 CS mark you're kind of looking for, as the lane phase ended rather early because they decided to try and contest for these Rift Heralds immediately on during the game, so the Senna's kind of slowed down in her pace. Meanwhile, you know, the side of AHQ, they have themselves close to a 40 CS lead in total when you group together the CS of the support and the AD carries.
And to think that 3Z was winning his lane earlier, and as well as Eminem Wing also getting a lot of priority, we did see that Kongye wasn't really felt at game number 1, but because of the movements that HKA has been doing at the laning phase, Kongye is definitely, you know, basically sort of everywhere. But now this could be a dive actually being set up for HKA, but Ysera is lingering around, so I guess that is going to be a no-go.
Yeah, unfortunately not able to continue forcing in, as now that's going to be Rift Herald started up here on the side of HKA, but instead they just go ahead and back out. HQ want to try and at least contest here. Sky of the Week not going to connect there onto Hollow as he's trying to clear out the control ward. A little bit dangerous considering Civ is on the other side of the wall. Shock Blast does tag 2 members of AHQ. Kongyu, though, wants to start back up the Rift Herald as now HQ are looking for the collapse here. And Hong Kong Attitude, they have to decide whether or not they want to go for this fight. The teleport is available for Wing if he wants to try and rejoin here on the Maokai. There is a nice ward right in the middle of the river if they want to try and go for it. Boy gets the Scatter of the Week. A nice little stun there on the Jimmian. Call has been made, though, on the side of Hong Kong Attitude. Maokai has joined in onto the party. 2,000 health onto the Rift Herald now. Kongya able to get that to turn back toward him, and they do secure the Rift Herald and should be able to secure the Eye. Civ was threatening for a dive here. Engage comes on down. In comes the rest of the damage. The ultimates are just going to pile on in, and 3Z's going to get taken out. Unfortunately, the hero's entrance does not connect onto any members. AHQ were able to disengage.
And we were worrying about where is your damage going to come from, especially at these 5v5 fights, when we were expecting a lot of dives coming from Jimmian earlier on for this bot side to propel at least Eminem and be a little bit more impactful, and as well as 3Z's lane to snowball a little bit. So unfortunately, it was 3Z that got bursted out immediately in that fight, so your only source of damage is definitely Eminem. Sometimes, yes, Galio does a huge amount of damage at the early phases of the game, but absolutely kind of unreliable in comparison to, like, you know, Uniboy Syndra here, as again, this was them wanting to wait for Ziv's ult to expire, but that hook from Ysera did really, really well.
And of all the targets to get there, too, he got 3Z on this chase when you have 3 front lines in the form of HKA, where you have a Galio, you have a Trundle, you have a Maokai. 3Z shouldn't be the one getting caught out by these hooks, but his misposition gets, again, pretty much abused, and that allows AHQ to find themselves a quick pick on top of the Rift Herald secure, and with that, too, it looks like they did use the Rift Herald, but they weren't able to actually take down the first tower. So first break gold still on the map for either one of these squads, as it's pretty much been a ping pong in the mid lane trying to prevent that from going to either side.
And that ping pong for HQ, they do have control over this dragon. Teleport is about to go online, really, but for Hollow, being a top side means they are going to be conceding this third dragon of the game to at least get that exchange on towers. Mid lane is getting chunked really hard as Wako is staying there in the mid lane.
And, you know, Infernal Soul is a bit dangerous here when you consider you'd have that onto a Syndra, where if she's able to get one orb, you get half the health taken in the late game. if you're on the side of HKA, if 3Z or Eminem get a little bit too close to the action. So extra damage doesn't help out Hong Kong Attitude being on the side of AHQ, as that's going to be their second tower taken, so AHQ are able to at least get 2 towers for 1 overall.
Yeah, it's just going to be painful because for Uniboy, all he has to worry about is just remove either 3Z or Eminem. Actually, I'd remove 3Z first because Eminem at the moment doesn't really create as much impact at this point of the game as a Senna in comparison to Wako with, you know, IE completed already. And with that, HQ will just play the usual, play safe, as, you know, that's 9 stacks already on Uniboy's Medjais, and they'll definitely be happy about that.
Wing's gonna head on back to the base. Still waiting on your second items here, as Jimyon's actually finished off his proto belt immediately, and looks like with the Seekers is going to opt into the Zonias. A little bit early here too, which kind of means they wanted to go for these dives, but we just really haven't seen it on the side of HKA, and it's going to come down to them trying to at least get some of this vision game down, maybe try and get a catch onto one of the squishy targets of AHQ, because like we mentioned, like as far as the damage goes, they have enough to take down one person. The fight goes long though. We've seen now 2 times back-to-back where Civ has been able to just rip apart the backline. Ysera might get caught out here. He's going to get rooted, ends up popping the ultimate immediately onto the Trundle, re-engage onto Jimyon. Senna ultimate is going to be there. Not a whole lot of damage though being put down onto the side of AHQ, so they're able to find themselves the push here in mid lane.
I was a little bit worried, considering that's a couple of resources being invested just to eliminate Ysera, but they managed to go back and retreat at least. And that's a flash dredge line. Kong is still lurking around, actually. Ziv is nearby. So Ziv is definitely a huge problem that HK has to deal with and ensure that their flanks are clear from this giant crocodile just bothering the back line, rather.
Well, you see, HQ were feeling confident that they can actually go for a fight, because you just had the Runeans completed for the Aphelios, so you're going to have a little bit of just overall damage output in your favor, but you also have now the second Black Cleaver being completed, as Kongyu was able to get that on his most recent back, as well as, like we mentioned, you're also gone into a Mejai's rush here from Uniboy after getting the early 2 kills and 5 assists, whereas HK, they're still waiting on, 1 to 2 items on their lethality members like this Jace, like this Senna, before they're really going to start paying off in their dividends.
And the thing is, we were hoping that this composition that HK assembled were to snowball. And as the game progresses, executing this comp is just going to be a little bit harder and harder. And you will have to rely on getting, picks, as HQ, when, you are at the 20-minute mark, you don't really see a lot of these players separated. And just as I mentioned, he's fine.
He's got the blast cone.
The blast cone there.
He got the blast cone. He could also safeguard the control ward. He's going to be okay, but hey, a little bit of a surprise there as Uniboy gets a little bit of a heads up. Hey, the rest of the squad's coming up. You should maybe back off. Now, it looks like for HKA, they're going to opt to just at least try and contain this mid lane, maybe try and push into this tower at some point, but it's kind of up to AHQ to be the ones to really put their foot down and try and open this game further.
The thing is, they don't necessarily have, backline access. It's definitely going to be their usual pattern of frontline versus frontline. And with 3Z decides to do a flank, he's just going to get scattered the weak out, and he's going to get bursted down, considering, again, Uniboy had a pretty comfortable laning phase. Still no deaths, and bounty already growing on top of Uniboy's head. So with that said, HKA will have to find the positioning during Dragon takes, for sure, on how they can immediately burst down Wako, if you will.
We actually see it's going to be a Spellbinder being rushed as well. Civ getting a nice combo, and you get to see 3Z is just getting wailed upon. In comes the Galio ultimate. 3Z able to survive. Civ almost gets taken on down. Scour of the Week, though, is going to go for the re-engage. In comes Wing, though. Konya goes flying into the backline. Jimyon might get caught out here, and he will, as Waco is going to soak up the Justice Punch and contains the Galios. They're able to find a pick as Civ is just able to escape with his life.
They invested so much, and I cannot blame HK because Ziv was just close to dying. He has a bunch of gold already growing as well on his bounty. 25 seconds on the clock for Jimmy, and he can try to teleport as HK is still, revolving around this area instead. Mid lane is still pretty much protected by Ziv, so unfortunately, this might be even the third dragon that HQ has.
There we go, Dragon secured, second Infernal, a nice tag of damage though goes on to Wake. It was gotta be a little bit careful here. Civ wanted to try and go in. There comes the engage though from the dredge line. It's not gonna connect, decides not to pull the trigger on the hook. In goes Kanya though into the back line. He's all alone though, the rest of his team isn't following up because meanwhile Jimian is running interference in AHQ. They're not able to find the fight they're looking for. Waco at least trying to kite on back. He's gonna flash on forward on the Aphelios, able to trade back a kill, but it's a triple kill now for 3Z on the Jace.
That's a triple kill on the Jace, and a couple of actually good shutdowns, so more gold for 3Z. And that's absolutely not what AHQ wanted to do, because I felt like Kongya was just too excited, hoping to get a flashy play, a kick somewhere. But unfortunately, again, there's a lot of CC coming from HKA's side.
We'll take another look here where they get the burst down on 3Z, but Civ just can't finish it off, and it's the ensuing chase that ends up costing HKA, but they're able to turn it around after the Dragon take on the side of AHQ.
And Jimian actually managed to survive despite having to be in the middle of it all. Oh, actually, he had to fall, but he did have teleport and as well as a hero's entrance to immediately go and join his squad. But this is where it gets a little bit tricky. HKA wanted to start a fight here as, you know, Wing is in the middle of it all. And I feel like this was, you know, AHQ's fight, as they didn't really had to, you know, pull a lot of resources. It was Kongya that got really excited.
Well, you see, there's a bunch of miscommunication because Kongya wanted to go in for the dive, but Jimian was able to teleport from the base, and he gets that speed boost that he could just run in and go for a taunt.
And that worked out in favor of HKA. HQ was definitely zoned out. And now that's 3Z with a triple kill. Question is, how do they keep capitalizing on how 3Z is currently very painful as the Jace?
Oh, Akko, if he's like this, he's going to get caught out as Eminem can try and chase him down. Gets 2 auto attacks there. Not able to finish off the Aphelios, but still even a Senna ultimate being used. Trying to really capitalize there and try and take down Wako, but it's not going to happen. It's 2.5 minutes here for the Infernal. That is HQ's next priority, as they would be able to secure the soul in their favor and try and take away some damage from Hong Kong Attitude. But you can start to see HQ are starting to look a little bit shaky here with their decisions.
Yeah, it's a little bit different now in comparison to the first game. Is Sarah still lurking around? HKA really does want to start something here.
Scour of the Week is not going to connect there. Engage comes out from Wing. It's going to be, again, the hero's entrance, and Ysera going down low, but is going to get taken down immediately, and that is a wide ultimate coming out from Waco, not able to find his target with the Aphelio ultimate. It's just going to be a trade of cooldowns with ultimates being burned on both sides. No one goes down here in mid.
Yeah, for HKA, if they decided to commit to that, they will definitely lose that one, considering AHQ was still pretty much healthy except for Ysera. They unfortunately are unable to burst this Nautilus down, and it is quite understandable. But now HQ, just as you mentioned, look a little bit shaky earlier. But we'll have to see if HQ decides to go back to the usual, maybe bait out a Baron, maybe HK will try to scout solo, and that will enable HQ to put not only pressure on Baron, but also for the next objective, which is Soul for AHQ.
And you do have teleport available for Uniboy, so he can go up into this top lane to at least try and split push while he can to try and farm up before he goes for his back. There isn't a whole lot of vision from either side, though. We have 1 minute, and the reset is now there for both sides if they want to try and get vision down, but we're not seeing much else, as it looks like Civ is going to be the only one tracking there. Kongya is also nearby. They do secure Scuttle, which is very nice to have, but mid lane, they're outnumbered as Ysera and Waiko have to give up pressure as the push will come through from Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of respect on towards Uniboy to most likely one-shot with, you know, 100 Spellbind stacks, 13 stacks rather, on this Medjai's. And for HKA's carries that they will solely rely on 3Z and Eminem, they're not exactly immune, or they're not building towards countering Uniboy just yet, as they do want to invest more items for damage, since they are definitely lacking on that department versus HQ.
Push is there, but again, HQ are going to be able to clear it out. That does mean, though, for HKA, They can rotate into the river, try and get some control wards down. AHQ, though, are keeping themselves contained here, as Infernal Drake will now spawn. For AHQ, this would be Soul if they're able to secure it. HKA are going to try and do what they can to prevent this from going on over. Jimmy's also there on a flank. Konya is a little bit late to the party. There is a teleport available on the side of Civ. He wishes to go for it. As AHQ, they're going to go ahead, pull the trigger immediately. Dragon is secured by Hong Kong Attitude, but Civ with a massive flank, able to get on top of 3Z. They do get the shutdown, though, immediately onto the Syndra. Hero's entrance comes on back, gets the knock on Ysera. Civ is acting as the disruptor on the front line, but in comes Waco on the Aphelios, and he's able to find the damage AHQ are looking for. It doesn't matter if they gave over the Infernal Drake. They're able to take the souls of HKA instead as they look to hunt down the tree through the jungle. They find themselves the advantage. It will be a delayed 4-for-1 in favor of AHQ as Wing is going to fall.
What a tanky tree, but again, it don't matter as Wing was trying to buy some time at least for HK to revive a little bit sooner, delay the Baron take, but at this point, what can you do? We saw the perfect situation that supposedly HKA could have won, eliminating Uniboy right off the bat.
Oh, 3Z. He teleports in. He's just going to be able to get himself to safety. Sarah gets taken on down. That's going to be a teleport back from Uniboy. They're able to find Eminem, though, immediately as, again, this is a very delayed Baron take. But in the end, HQ are going to back off for HKA. Maybe it's mission accomplished, but they do give over a couple more kills in favor of AHQ over the extended trade.
And there you go. That is, just as you mentioned, mission accomplished for HK, managing to delay another take of this Baron. It's very reminiscent of what we've seen in game number 1, but let's take a look at this again. Sarah was the one who started the fight. Uniboy, though, was the first one to fall. Amazingly done damage coming from the side of HKA. But Wako, we did mention, do you have backline access? Wako was untouched this whole fight.
That whole fight, and the fact that he's running again the Runans, he's able to get the multiple procs off, especially when he's running that flamethrower. And, you know, for Wing, he actually brought them closer to the Baron. Maybe he could have ran the other direction, but in the end, they are able to at least interrupt this take, but they do have to expend 3Z's teleports, so they won't have any side lane pressure here for the next couple of minutes.
Yeah, exactly, and they have to rely on most likely maybe the teleport of Jimian or perhaps maybe even Wing, but you can see how confident Wako is, considering he never used his stopwatch in that dragon fight. He never used his cleanse as well. So that is 2 defensive barriers that you have to penetrate for HKA to fully have this chance of eliminating Wako.
Actually, because Civ ended up using his teleport, there isn't actually going to be a trade, but immediately Wing might get caught out here, as that is going to be the ultimate being used by Ysera. In comes the Senna ultimate, still not enough damage, and Waco's on a killing spree now as they cut down the Maokai once again in the mid lane. Civ looking for a flank, but that might give enough confidence over to AHQ to try and go for this Baron once again.
Yeah, and now 2 minutes on the clock as well for the next Dragon to spawn, for Dragon Soul for HQ, and that seems to be the call in mind. Unfortunately, they're not able to cancel any sort of the ports except for Uniboy, which is quite close if you ask me. But again, we did question what it will be your main engage, reliable engage, that would mirror what Ysera brings to the table on this Nautilus. And again, a lot is going to be reliant on Wing standing too close, and as well as maybe pillars or maybe even the taunt from Jimian. But so far, it has been a struggle for HKA to sort of start fights, as HQ has been very confident to engage with theirs.
You know, Waco still has his stopwatch. He hasn't had to burn that yet since he got into his inventory. Now, I don't know if he had that on the most recent fight, but I think it goes to show overall that this Aphelios has not been really threatened except for the early game fights that we saw where he was a bit out of position. Now he sits 7-2-6, working toward his 5th item, which is going to be likely, he could go GA or he could go into the Bloodthirster if he wants a little bit more sustain in the kit. 50 seconds, though, on Infernal. AHQ can look to secure Soul. We'll see whether or not Hong Kong Attitude are able to deny this once more and try and extend this game. Yeah,
this stopwatch, again, and as well as the cleanse, was available in either the the Dragon take from earlier that HKA managed to take away from AHQ. And again, HKA's composition doesn't necessarily have that backline access, if you will. And at that point, having to eliminate Waka will definitely prove a huge challenge. But good news, though, they're not, they've managed to build MR at least on the side of 3Z and Eminem with that Edge of Night. So that maybe one-shot burst coming from Uniboy will be slowed down a little bit.
The hook, though, is going to land once again onto Wing. Gets caught out. He's able to disengage, but he has to pop his stone plate. A nice shock blast, though, is able to tag Wako. So he gets himself down to about half health, but instantly, though, in comes the Scatter of the Week, and that forces out the flash from Eminem, so that is not going to be the defensive summoner being available. Civ also has his GA now up on online. Kongyu looking for a flank, not able to find it. 3Z getting very aggressive here. His Edge of Night is actually going to get procced, and now HKA start up the Dragon, but Civ is going to look for a flank. Does Hong Kong Attitude really want to try and fight this? 4,000 health onto the Dragon. AHQ are looking to secure Soul. They're going to allow it to reset here as HKA. They have to worry about now the mid lane getting pushed in naturally by minions. They're going to lose second tier tower. Top lane is also going to get pushed in. If they lose this fight, they can lose a whole lot more, but we'll see. Engage comes out from the side of AHQ. A decent amount of damage, and the Soul goes in favor of Kongya. In comes the Hero's Entrance. Not going to find any connection, though, and now the question is, can they turn that back around? Jimmy with a 4-man stun, able to find a decent amount of damage, but it's still just not enough on the side here of HKA as they start shredding down the main carries. They shred apart the team, and it's the ace for AHQ.
And that is AHQ, will be marching down with rewards, with 5 kills in their pockets, and as well as that Infernal Soul for that extra damage on the side of this winning team right now. Again, unfortunately, this Ziv flank just did a lot to remove one of the engage that HK had, and 3Z was chunked down so low, he's not able to do his usual combo of diving in, so has to rely on shock blasts, which is unfortunately not enough to finish the targets.
And I'll give it to Jim. He tried to go for, that 4-man taunt, but unfortunately just could not do it. And with that, AHQ were able to secure an inhibitor. They'll likely also get the inhibitor tower in bot lane, and they really crack open a gold lead now. 65,000 gold in their back pocket, 10,000 over Hong Kong Attitude, with now Elder spawning in less than 5 minutes and Baron on the map.
Yeah, and now this looks like another last stand for HKA, because AHQ will march their way towards Baron. That is their next win condition to end this game into a 2-0. So for HKA, they have to make this final fight in the Baron count. Unless AHQ just decides to, okay, maybe we're just going to get one pick, maybe bait HKA out towards this Baron. But again, these carries are untouched. Uniboy Wako, and you had this big problem as well from Ziv. Guardian Angel not procced. Again, stopwatch not used at all during that exchange. So again, just a ton of defenses still up for AHQ.
So they'll do what they can to try and soak up as much experience in CS as they can. But for AHQ, it looks like they are primed and ready to try and finish off this game off one more fight in their favor. Sarah's going to be able to land the hook immediately onto the Trundle. Kongyu will go for possibly the flank here, gets the tag onto Wing, looking for the kick, does not decide to pull the trigger though, as now HKA, they might get away themselves, but another great hook into the dredge line, depth charge combo. There's a decent amount of damage. Wako is completely untouched during the duration of this fight as the Aphelios can start raining damage once again. Wing able to sidestep away from the hook, but unfortunately for Hong Kong Attitude, their season might be coming to an end here as it's a double kill for the Aphelios. 3Z on the back line trying to make a hero play, but Kanye style is on him, gets the kick back, and Hollow's gonna get tagged once again. The Trundle trying to run to safety, the flash forward, and now the Senna being hunted down here by Waco at the fountain, finds himself another kill, and he is godlike as AHQ can look to close out this series over Hong Kong Attitude 2-0 and look to face Talent Esports for a shot at the Grand Finals against Machi.
What a strong finish coming from AHQ. They were confident, and it's like another day at work for them, it seems, as they seemed unfazed. They were a little bit excited during probably the mid-game, but it all worked out pretty well for AHQ.
Yeah, unfortunately there for the sign of Hong Kong Attitude, their season comes to an end, or at least their spring split, not their entire season, just spring comes to an end here as they're not able to continue the miracle charge back into the grand final to have a shot at going up against Machi versus Talon as they fall here 2-0 to AHQ.
And it seems, history has repeated itself during the regular split where HQ managed to 2-0 HKA convincingly. But the big difference is that there is definitely, a shift, especially that we saw 3Z on the Jace and Vlad in this particular series. But, AHQ is just really such a strong team, like as a group and as individual lanes.
Yeah, and for them, I think they didn't have to show a whole lot when it comes to their kind of compositions. They actually played pretty much the exact same composition back-to-back here, so I think for Talon, they didn't have to show much in this series, and I think for Hong Kong Attitude, I think overall it has to come to a little bit of confidence and also maybe just their composition. They always rely on the fact that they can force these games to 40 minutes, but you're going up against AHQ, and to give them one opening, we've seen now in both games that they're able to close the deal pretty efficiently.
Yeah, I really thought we would have seen maybe 3Z snowball a little bit, or maybe even shut down Wako at bot side, especially they locked in Jimian's Galio. So I really thought that would be constant pressure for bot. And unfortunately, we didn't really see that come to fruition. So that's the reason why they really struggled when it comes to, the late game fights.
Yeah, and it kind of all starts here with Civ starting to find his flanks on this Renekton. And we saw now a couple times during this game in particular that he's able to disrupt so much of the game plan from Hong Kong Attitude that the rest of the team just goes untouched. We said it multiple times. This Aphelios was able to just get away with murder in multiple instances because no one was able to get on top of him.
Yeah, it is definitely about that, composition and where they didn't really have that backline access and therefore not able to sort of assassinate Wako. So it's all about trying to get that awkward.
Yeah, to get the opportunity to try and, jump in onto that Aphelios, but they never had it.
Yeah, considering that during the later phases of the game, we saw how Eminem is 3 levels behind Wako, which means in terms of, either base stats and as well as levels in your skills, they're actually already behind. So damage-wise, not a lot growing in towards that late game, but as you can see, 51,000 damage for Wako in this Aphelios.
That's a bit disgusting, to say the very least here. That Aphelios damage, that's almost like 1,200, 1,300 damage a minute during this game, as it was only a 37-minute game when he's sitting on 51,000 damage. That's incredible. That's coming out from Waco.
It's crazy, considering, again, there were so many instances where, HKA was just so grouped up, and he already at the time had Runan, so they just had to soak so much at every single fight during the Dragon take. So at this point, it's not a surprise if Wako is the MVP for this game.
Yeah, MVP is going to be Wako on this Aphelios, so he's able to secure himself an MVP once again, and a little bit, again, that damage was absolutely insane coming out from him as he was able to. He did so much for his team. What's that? Team damage share? Yeah, 47% on the Aphelios. That's what happens when you don't get anyone onto the back line. So congratulations over to AHQ, and they'll be able to advance to our lower bracket final, which takes place immediately here, as they'll go up against Talon Esports, but they will have a small intermission to work with. We're not going to force them to go back-to-back immediately. We will be going on about a 30-minute break, so they'll have some time to kind of regroup and set themselves up for that strategy.
Yeah, and just as you mentioned, it seems to me they didn't really have to show their cards too early, especially, not only Talon is watching their matches, but also Machi, just in case, they manage to move on to the next round and go towards the final. So with that said, HQ seemed to reserve a little bit more of their energy, especially, again, they have to face Talon. And if you're going to face Talon, this could go for another BO5 series.
Yeah, another best-of-5 series. I wouldn't argue against it. Again, Talon has gone the distance in every single playoff series that we've had twice when it comes to a best-of-5. So maybe they can make it 3 in a row, possibly 5 if they're able to make it to the grand final. We are going to go ahead and take that break. Like I mentioned, when we come back, though, it is going to be our lower bracket final between AHQ and Talon. Stick around.